gentlemen, yes, your eyes are not mistaken. This is all four corners in the same damn room. We finally was able to do it. I'll just start like this. Like always, I am your man, K Marvel.
I am QS.
I'm the Big Stretch.
Shaka Dracone, as always.
And we are the Four Corners of Commentary. Thank you for tuning in again. Once again, this is a special occasion, and it's only right that we're doing our 10th episode today. So we are
all those celebrity endorsements and sponsors finally paid off.
Finally got it somewhere.
We're finally here.
We Jeffersons right now.
Right, moving on up. So on today's episode, this is the 10th episode. So we figured we pay homage to our namesake, if you will. So today we're doing commentators, announcers. When it comes to commentators, like calling matches, and their job is to help tell the story, help bring it along during a match, outside of a match, after promos, pre-promos. And they are so instrumental in the business that it's very difficult to do wrestling without a commentator. You can definitely watch basketball without one, you can watch football without one. But wrestling is just a different case, you know? So each of us, like always, we have a commentator that we are going to speak about, like, you know, love. It might be one of the best ones of all time. It might not be one that you remember too well. We just have to see what's going on. Gentlemen, who wants to start?
Our wrestling encyclopedia.
Yeah.
So this might come as a surprise to some of you. Maybe it may not.
Josh Williams.
I'm not
Josh
sure.
Matthews.
Good grief, no. He's not even on my short list. But my favorite commentator is actually Vince McMahon.
That's not. For some reason, that's not shocking to me, though.
I know Vince McMahon. I know I get a lot of shit like, oh, you're a McMahon apologist and something like that. But this is completely a childhood pick for me. You know, he's really the voice that I grew up with as far as like calling wrestling matches.
Right.
And I feel like what makes him special is, sure, he's not necessarily well versed on a lot of the moves, but he can sell you on some of the most mundane things that happens in a match, like storylines you shouldn't even be able to care about, like little mundane small details. You know, from what we know, you know, he's usually in the ear of the commentators anyway, and we often hear like, oh, they don't sell things the way Vince wants them to sell it.
Right.
You go back and listen to some of his commentary and the emotion that he speaks with, and how he pronounces words and how he puts emphasis on things, his inflections. I think he does a damn good job. I mean, he doesn't like
good shit.
Right. Like, small things like, you know, like you see somebody like he'll just add like emphasis. Like I remember, and this is so trivial. Like I remember like Paul Bear like crawling away from the Undertaker, and he's like, look at him grovel. Yep. Like, you know, little things like that. Like just makes it more interesting to me.
I think the cool thing with Vince too is not only like how he portrayed stories, but the people he worked with. He worked with Macho Man. He worked with Jim Ross. He worked with Jerry Lawler. He worked with Gorilla Monsoon. Jesse Ventura. I mean, the list just goes on. And I think, you know, like, yes, he is Vince McMahon. He was born into the business. He's been around it his entire life. So he should have a grip on how to tell a story. Right. Yeah. But I mean, even from him, because if I'm not mistaken, didn't he start as a photographer? Which seems like to be the thing that most people start off with.
I think he started off as a photographer. If I'm not mistaken, I would have to look it up. He started off
I'm sorry, Mr.
I know he did start as an announcer. He's been announcing since like the 70s.
Wasn't he a ref also?
I'm not sure. I know Shane was a ref. I'm not sure about him. But I know for a fact that he was an announcer at first. Especially because if you listen back to some of the older stuff, he does like this Howard Cosell. Like impersonation, you know, Howard Cosell. Yeah. Talking like this all the time.
Yes. Wasn't he an interviewer as well?
Yeah, there's a clip of him interviewing Andre the Giant, over 7 feet 4 inches tall and 500 pounds.
Yeah, is you tell me he was nervous, or do you think that was?
No, that was completely by design. I'll say that I know he's the boss and everything, you know, and sounds like bootlickerish stuff for me to even consider him on this list, considering who else we could talk about. I don't think he gets nearly enough credit for being a commentator.
Right? Yeah.
No, there's a lot of classic matches that he called that I think were pretty goddamn good, and I think his commentary enhances it. So, call me what you want. I don't care. I think Vince McMahon is aces as a goddamn commentator. You don't have to recite every single cravat in order to make something interesting.
Right. As long as it's believable.
Right.
Yeah.
As long as it's believable. Yeah. I think his vocabulary and the way he commentates.
Right. Damn, that like it was quite. I feel like for me it was quite shocking, but not that shocking. Like I thought you would have went with Vince or as if
of course.
we all know you would have went with Heenan. Like
Heenan's a holy grail when it comes to color commentary.
You know,
there's nobody touching Heenan.
Hey, what do you want to do, Striker? You got something?
Oh, well, mine's a very contemporary pick, but I feel he does a lot of things that is not something that a lot of commentators do. No, I'm speaking of Paul Heyman. Yeah, we had a whole diatribe about Paul Heyman another day. I love New York. I love New Yorkers, but I'm gonna speak about a Canadian man right now. I'm speaking about Mauro Ranallo.
Y'all right? Okay.
I absolutely love Mauro because not only is he contemporary, but he's very excitable as a commentator. Mm-hmm. When you're there and you're listening to him on a microphone, when you hear how he is, excited, how he's screaming when something happens in a match, you're basically jumping out of your seat with him. I don't know if anybody has seen the behind the scenes of, I believe WWE had posted it on their website.
For takeovers?
For takeovers, yes. When they had the announcement table there.
When they had the camera right in front of them.
Amazing. You see Mauro jump right out the seat, Mamma Mia, oh my God. Like, you have to have that type of energy.
Right.
You can't be very monotone and dull. Like, I get, some commentators do it as a character, but to have a commentator there at the desk and have that much energy, that childlike excitement, to speak about things. And then when I say contemporary, he's talking about whips and nays. He's talking about, Future's new song. He's talking about Kanye and Drake.
He's very on the pulse,
but he's very contemporary.
Especially when it comes to those statements, because he's into hip hop.
Right.
So I think I don't know why I always go next when people talk. I'm sorry, but I think when it comes to Mauro, his excitement is really exciting. Yeah, you know what I mean. And I'm not downplaying for anybody else. I'm just saying, number one, he knows his stuff. Mm-hmm. He'll call the moves what they are. You know what I mean. He can literally. I think he's one of the few people on at the commentator's booth that can. I think with anybody we mention, any legend, any Mount Rushmore of commentary, if you will, I think he can go toe to toe with anybody and feed off and just work well with anybody. I think he's one of those universal type of. He could have been in any company and been amazing. I mean, he was in UFC. Like, look what he did for
boxing.
I like it. He still does Showtime.
He still does
boxing.
Showtime boxing. Yes.
I like Mauro. I think he just there's a couple of things he does that's a little bit too much.
Okay.
To me, I think he does the pop culture references a little too much.
Mm-hmm. I understand that.
Like, I don't hate it. Don't get me wrong.
No, it's just
like if we really need to have like a Migos reference,
right?
They're just like, okay, I get it. You know it. Fine.
Gotcha.
But I love him because you can tell he was a fan when he grew up.
Right.
Like his excitement is genuine.
Yeah.
And it's not like from a contrived place. Like you can tell nobody's in his ear. Like, okay, get excited now.
Yeah,
like he genuinely likes what he's seeing.
Right.
And you can't fake that.
I think as much as I can understand a little too much with the pop culture references, but I think what makes it so good is how he uses those references. If they're doing, and I'm just throwing it out there, and somebody does a crossbody from the top rope and he says how high from with Method Man and Red, you know what I mean? Like I think he weaves. I think the way he tells the story, he weaves the story together. And especially for TakeOver. He was amazing on SmackDown. Don't get me wrong, but I think NXT is definitely his best work in the WWE for sure.
Definitely his most comfortable work too.
Because exactly what you said. It's because he's the most comfortable there, and also he just with NXT, you already know it. No crowd is like honestly, there's no crowd like an NXT crowd. It's so raw, it's so passionate, so it's obvious. Like you put in there, he fits perfectly with that passion, with the love. Like he feeds off of it. So and and they feed off of him as well.
Right.
Even though the actual live fans are not actually listening, they're not hearing
But
it.
you can see
You
his
can,
reaction.
but you know they see the reaction. You know they're feeling it, so you
Right.
know. So you know it's like back and forth, and it goes hand in hand. Definitely one of the goats.
Yes,
he's one of the current. He's one of the, I would say he's one of the present current.
I think he's the best
He-
play-by-play guy in wrestling.
Yeah, honestly, he might be one of the best play-by-plays of all time.
Right.
And I know that's saying a lot, but he might be in the top
I
five.
can't disagree with it. He's top 10 to me.
You
I
know.
can't disagree with that.
At all.
You know, especially considering like, you know, not only does he know his stuff, but it's
Right.
like he can enhance like for that person who doesn't necessarily know what's going on, but I think he recaps
Right.
during the match pretty well.
Right.
And that's hard to do.
Exactly.
Like to be able to not only tell the story, but to recap what's happened in the story
Right.
during the match.
Mhm.
Like he does call backs really well. I think
Right.
that's very particularly difficult.
Right.
The contemporary portion, I feel, is very. One reason I keep stressing on the contemporary portion, you have a lot of people that's coming into wrestling now, as opposed to, especially with the NXT era. You have a lot more people coming into wrestling now. The fact that all these people and all these companies now have, streaming services where people are coming into it, you need somebody like that who can, match the contemporary mood with what they're going on in the match.
Right.
You understand? So, if I'm a little black child or, boy or girl who listens to Migos, who listens to all different types of music, and I get a cross reference between Migos and, The Last Shot or something that Adam Cole is doing in the ring, like I can better relate to that. So I completely agree with what you were saying, that sometimes it is too much, but it's definitely necessary.
I think it's funny that I feel like he's one of the only people that would use something like Baby Shark in wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, and make it work. I think his mind in itself is so interesting, and to watch, if y'all get a chance, watch his documentary, watch some of his interviews, read some of his interviews. He's not a man who just flies by the seat of his pants. Like, he goes through a lot personally, and mental health is a real big issue for him. And I think for him to stay as excited as he does, just show the passion that he has for anything that he does, I think is something that everybody should be looking at and looking up to.
Documentary is very revealing.
Yeah.
I had
He
no
was very
idea.
open.
I had no idea until I watched that documentary that he's been in the wrestling business for that long. Like, he was in the Stampede Wrestling Revival. That was like, I think, was that like the early 80s?
I think so.
90s, early 90s or so. And he was a kid. He was like 19 years old, and he was a manager. He was
Crazy.
pretty damn good from what I saw.
Q, what you got, bro?
Well, I mean, you gotta take it. It's good. You started with Vince. You started with Morrow. I mean, it only makes sense to I gotta take it back to a lot of us who grew up on this guy. By God Almighty.
By God King.
That was a shocker.
Somebody
had
had
to
to
mention him.
By God Almighty. Yeah, you gotta go.
If he didn't do it, I might have.
With literally one of the greatest of all time, you gotta go with good old Jim Ross, good old JR.
I'm sorry, and I know how you feel about your man, but
It's
probably
it's
the
a-
greatest
He
commentator
is.
of all
I'm
time.
not saying that.
Is
The Ross, objectively, is probably the greatest.
probably
I'm
the
not saying
greatest
that.
commentator.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
And it's just
Austin.
Son of a bitch.
No, wait. Oh, he sold his soul to the devil himself.
like a scarlet dog.
You
You did so many phrases like you didn't know what a government mule was until JR said it.
right.
It's just when you go back, it's the reason why I decided I picked JR, because again, I grew up on JR. I grew up on JR and Jerry Lawler. Like those two hand in hand were like, and I know like JR he's done commentating, he's done it with Vince, he did it with Bobby Heenan, he's done it. I think, I'm not sure if he did it with Gorilla Monsoon.
He did.
But even then, it's like we all still say to this day, some of his best work, JR's best work, has always been when he was with King.
Yeah.
And JR, what made JR so lovable is, one, he always spoke his mind. It didn't matter what it was, whether regarded as the person was a face or a heel, especially his heel. He spoke his mind. He just said he said how he felt, and he didn't care about the consequences. And a lot of times, JR would get hurt because of what he was speaking his mind, but it just didn't. But it still, he would see, even though he'll get beat up, he'd still be able to come back and still call the match, and you'd still be just tuned in because you're just like, oh wow, JR got you there. Just like we're like he's called like so many of these greatest matches. He's
Some of the best matches of all time.
of course like the whole series of Rock and Austin. He's called the Kane and the Undertaker matches. He called the first WrestleMania 25
Dude,
Shawn
he
Michaels
called
and HBK.
everything.
He
He called almost every some of the biggest.
the invasion angles,
Oh my God.
the Survivor Series.
Amazing.
There's so many matches you cannot. That is, if I really had to go down the whole entire list of all the matches that JR has called, and this is just in WWE. I didn't even talk about his. You could even want to go back and talk about his stint when he was in WCW, or even when he back in NWA. He's been doing this for so long. And the thing, and not
A
even
lot of different people.
I was gonna say real quick. Sorry to cut you off, but we're talking about his tenure. He's with AEW now, and he's still as good as he ever was.
yeah, he still got it. He
You know
does.
what I mean?
Even at his age, yes, he still has.
I think he's
he
another
has-
person that can he can literally just feed off of anybody.
Yeah.
And the way he tells the story also, it's like, I mean, besides of him being, he was head of talent relations, he did a lot of different stuff. I think
producer.
I think these
Vice president, bro.
Yeah, I think something really good with the announcers is that they are so close to the wrestlers and their stories,
Right.
and they literally sit right there and they watch everything happen. I think it's so much easier for them to pull off these stories. And Jim Ross is the penultimate, he's the best.
Listen, Jim Ross has been part of so many great moments. You can even talk about the greatest moments. He called Rock and Hogan. And you can talk about the embarrassing moments. JR was actually the first person that was inducted to Vince McMahon's Kiss My Ass.
I was just thinking about that.
The first one was William Regal.
And wait, and William did it willingly.
Speaking of that moment, his commentary enhanced that moment.
Yes.
It did.
I think Jerry always laughed.
I think that was something else.
Regal portion.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was something else too. It's not just the matches, and excuse me for not mentioning this earlier, but it's not just the matches. I did. It's the promos.
Right.
It's the you know what I mean. JR was, oh my God.
And even then, you could even talk about JR calling even some of the darkest moments.
Mhm.
We already know. We saw what God versus Soul. We knew what happened with Over the Edge. He called that, and he still kept it in character.
Mhm.
JR for seeing that happen, saw that happen, that whole sequence happened. We were all watching it as kids, and JR was still able to keep it composure and still be professional and make the show go on. It shows to his character and his integrity. But at the same time, you can also go with another dark moment when Kane unmasked himself.
Yeah.
When had to unmask himself, and then when he had to do that very famous interview with Kane.
Mm.
And Kane thought that he was laughing at him. The whole time, I hope that was making fun of him. And the whole time, JR was just trying to get something out. He's just trying to get something out the way.
But I'm trying to.
And then it just
I'm trying to remember.
and then it just turned into JR getting set on fire. And mind you, yes, we know JR was probably okay. But when you're watching this and he's young, you're like, you knew JR was always he's gotten his ass kicked, he's gotten beaten up. You have never seen JR get set on fire. We've seen him get stunned. We've seen him get beat up by Pedigree. You've seen him get beat up by Vince and his gang, but you've never seen this. And it was just like, oh God.
Ladies and gentlemen, you talk about people who deserve hazard pay now.
It's
Jim Ross.
Oh no,
arms way.
I'm pretty sure Jim Ross was paid very nicely.
I hope so.
He better.
I hope so.
Because there's no way you're just taking a regular check out.
Right, yeah,
just getting
no
your
way,
back
no.
set on fire. That's
He's
just
been up for a while now.
yeah, and he's still trucking, he's still moving, and even though you still got to go back to him calling possibly the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, WrestleMania 25, HBK versus Taker. He called it down the middle, and not only besides those two, Taker and Shawn, were in that ring and gave you the performance of a lifetime. JR called the performance. He called it. He was calling it, and he had you invested.
Yeah, instrumental on making it the greatest of all time.
Literally, you felt like with him just commentating, you felt like the match just should never end.
Yep.
And it really looked like that match was never going to end because it went on for well over 30 minutes. It was just like, wow.
Eventually, I feel like this will be enough. We will be speaking on that specific match.
Right.
Right. I mean, what else can we say about Jim Ross? We can literally speak to high heavens about him.
You can speak to high heavens.
Just can't stop.
Even his commentate. His commentating in AEW, I like it, but I definitely see the age is setting in.
Yeah.
I could tell you.
But he's been through a lot now.
He's been going on, having having his son's ball policy. I know that,
And his wife, with his
wife
wife passing.
wife passing. So I know he's been through enough. And I see he's still trying to just still going and still trying to just work and just show
I think at this point he's just having fun.
Yeah, he's having fun with it.
It's a lot more vacation.
I think,
work.
but you know what it is?
Right.
I think for me, it's just some of the references he tries to relate to this current generation, and it's clear he can't really relate all the way. And even I think that was also his stint when he was in New Japan. It was just
I think the way AEW splits up their commentary, that booth, I think it works on each person's strength. JR really focuses on the story. Excalibur really just talks about the moves.
Yeah.
If you think about it, and Shivani will add in his little commentary. He's done a little bit of both.
Also to Excalibur's point, I feel he's the contemporary one at best.
Yeah.
So he's bringing you to
now,
right.
the now of the passive wrestlers that people may not know, and obviously how stuff is done.
I think also, and we didn't mention him, even though now that I'm thinking about it, he should be my pick, but he's not. No offense. Even with Jim Ross and Taz, you know what I mean? Now, granted, for the most part, when you think of SmackDown, especially further back, you think Taz and Michael Cole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Super
even
Six,
right,
what do they call that
even
again?
what?
The 6 performers, SmackDown 6.
Oh yeah.
That era. Ruthless Run.
Right. I think even watching Taz and JR now, you know what I mean? They, like I said, it's just the way he feeds off each other. Like the way these commentators are able to feed off each other, whether they like you personally or not.
But being a JR is he's a legend. JR can feed off everybody. He's the legend. He can feed off of anybody, and he makes them look good. He'll make anybody look good. Shoot, he was making JR was making Michael Cole look good. Even when we all see it, he made Josh Matthews look good. Yes, he did. He made Josh Matthews look good, and we still stand on that hill. We can stand on that hill.
I'm not saying that.
No, he can. We'll stand on that hill. It's okay.
No, you stand on that hill.
All right.
I'm not agreeing with that.
I'm not a huge fan, but I think he enhances who he's next to.
Yeah,
He does.
Regardless of who it is.
He does.
Even when he was with Paul, it was entertaining.
That was one of the best.
That's one of the best commentary
ever.
combos of all time.
Yeah.
JR and Paul, that was ruthless.
To match Paul on the mic,
down.
especially in a commentary,
Yeah.
in just on
Right.
the mic, and you don't have to do much. It's effortless.
They bring it. It's crazy.
Today-
They have a dynamic that I miss in pro wrestling.
Right.
Yeah.
Where it's the play-by-play guy is unabashedly objective,
Right.
and then there's a heel color commentator right next to him, and the color commentator is needling him.
Right.
But it's so crazy because when you go back color commentator, even when it was JR and King was supposed to be the color commentator. He was supposed to be the one that's the heel. But then it's just after a while, it just
evolved into a face.
it evolved to a face, and it's just they're both just having fun.
Yeah,
It's just
I think it was
really
really interesting when he did that switch, and then King was kind of like the face color by color,
right.
color by color.
Color commentator.
Yeah, excuse me, color by color. My bad. And then JR was kind of like the dick, and it wasn't for that long.
Right.
I
But
vaguely remember the heel thing.
it was that was crazy.
I remember when JR even came to the ring one
Yes,
time.
it went off.
Yeah, what a hell of a promo talking about when Vince fired him.
Yep.
I was just like, wow.
Granted, it led up to a horrible finger replacement deal and Razor, but the promo beforehand was pretty goddamn
It
good.
was pretty damn
I
good.
always tell people, I think that Jim Ross could have made a hell of a manager if he wanted to go into that route.
Yes.
But I mean, you can't argue with his commentary, why he wanted to stick with commentary.
Right.
I can't argue with that at all.
I think some people forget that Jim Ross was a commentator with the NFL. He was at the time.
Yeah, he does.
He was football. He was
Does
football
on
commentator.
radio.
He was. He had his times, but overall,
No,
This
he had
is-
his podcast and his radio going
Mm-hmm.
on,
at the
killing
end,
it.
this
Books.
is if you had to look at even JR's barbecue sauce, if you had to just look at the Mount Rushmore of commentators,
Yeah.
Jim Ross is literally he's the first. He's number one.
He's the Washington
Absolutely. He's
on
Washington.
Mount Rushmore.
Rushmore.
Maybe the Lincoln.
I don't
Because I think
that-
he changed the game. From when he started to even now, once again, he is still commentating.
Hall of Fame.
But I think he's definitely the one who
Do you want to say the
people
constant
open
of
it.
commentary?
Always.
I guess so.
That's a good one.
He made people. He made people open his eyes. He made people realize that you can approach the game differently.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like an announcer. And no offense to anybody prior to.
But Jim, I mean, he's the legend. I can't.
The GOAT.
He's the greatest of all time.
Greatest of all time.
I don't think you can have a Mount Rushmore commentary. You
You
just
can't.
without Jim Ross.
You
You
can't.
can't.
There's no way.
It's crazy if you can't say that Jim Ross is not in your top 5, not your top 3, or even in your if he's not in your top 3.
If he's not in your top 2, there's a problem.
Yeah, it's like something's up here. Like something's wrong. You probably need to go back and just you can literally go on YouTube, watch a couple of videos, and you see it. It's like
A couple. You can literally just go through his
Go
play-by-play. You
there's
can
a
do
whole-
a compilation. There's a million of them.
There's a whole compilation. There's a whole WWE
There's too many
playlist of
matches.
just JR
Yep.
calling matches, and it
Yep.
just you'll see it. It's like, yeah, this is the magic. This is it. And this is what every announcer needs to strive to. You want to be like Jim.
Right.
You want to be like Jim Ross, even better than Jim
Right.
Ross. But you just know that Jim Ross's shoes are very, very. Those are tough shoes to fill. Those are tough boots to fill. I'm just not. I gotta keep it what it is.
I mean, somebody had to talk about him. It's Jim Ross. I mean,
So,
like I said, if you didn't go with him, I would have had to. That just would have been disrespectful. For me, okay, so I had one pick, but I think I'm gonna go with Troy's kind of contemporary more now, and a lot of people aren't gonna like this, and I'm absolutely okay with that. But I'm going with Corey Graves. I think
I don't think that's a bad pick.
I think-
don't think he's bad.
right, but
like
I think the heat that he gets
yeah.
is I don't want to say that it's ill because I mean anybody can feel how they feel about anything, but you know, if you don't know, Corey was a wrestler, had a career-ending concussion, and then I remember watching that takeover Arrival because he was on Arrival, wasn't he?
Wasn't he facing? No.
I don't think he wrestled on any of the takeovers.
Wasn't he on?
I think
he had first?
I think he transitioned.
He transitioned.
On that
during the
takeover, right.
Yeah.
At the first
That
takeover, I
is-
believe.
No, I don't think he wrestled the first takeover.
No. I thought he had wrestled Arrival because that was technically the first take. That was like takeover before it was takeover.
Because I think he had a match with
But I could be
Neville,
wrong.
I don't know if that was before.
That wasn't a takeover. It was a before
Yeah.
takeover. He
All right. Well,
hurt during the first couple of takeovers.
Yeah.
Came
I mean,
back.
either way.
Yeah.
I think he brings back a style of commentating that I don't want to say is forgotten, but it's not touched upon enough. He does the color commentary, I think, he's very unique about the way he does it. He likes who he likes. He doesn't like who he doesn't like. And I think I think his heel portion of what he does might be the best in the business within the last 5 years. I think he once again, I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves.
I'll agree with that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just the way once again, it's all about telling stories, and the way he tells stories, the way he even the way he attacks, wrestlers. You know what I mean? With the whole Sasha Banks and Bailey, Sasha's always gonna backstab you. Blah, 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 you know what I mean? I think his interaction with the New Day, and I know they're a constant that we talk about on the podcast, but it's true. Biggie throws his damn jacket at him every SmackDown, every paper. Like they were throwing pancakes out of his reactions to things. I think helps the story and no offense, I know you've been doing this for a very long time, but when when it seems like Michael Cole is a little bland on things like surprises, you know what I mean? Or moments, when we watch Royal Rumbles and people come back and he's like, oh, and you're like, you should be more excited. I think Corey Graves definitely brings out that excitement on SmackDown.
He also loves Mandy Rose. You keep forgetting that.
He has
he stands Mandy Rose.
as Carlos.
when
he has a favorite, he has a favorite.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm sorry to cut you off, but between Mandy Rose and
Alexa Bliss.
yes,
Alexa Bliss.
the way he brought up Alexa Bliss on SmackDown,
Yeah.
hell on Raw.
No,
I mean,
shit, NXT.
oh yeah, that's true too.
Vince versus NXT.
That was his favorite.
Yeah, once again, I just don't think he gets enough credit for the work that he does, and the way he continues to grow. Just like watching back on Takeover 30, he came back, and I believe it was him and Vic
Joseph.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Even that dynamic was amazing.
Yeah.
Like his interactions with Byron Saxton.
Yes.
I think that's a good interaction. Those are like a throwback. My only thing with Graves, and I agree with you, I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves. I think he is pretty good. I think he just falls into some of the same traps that we see color commentators go through today. And I'm not sure, I don't think that's on him. I think that's more of a company directive.
Right.
That he falls into like the same like recycled lines.
Yeah,
Kind of.
yeah.
Like when he calls a match, like you can always tell like when you see a spot, for example. JBL, I think, was the king of this. He like his second go around on commentary. I think his first go around was great. But when you would see like Rey Mysterio do like a 619 right before he hits it, who you gonna call? Like one of those. Uses the same lines over and over again. And I think they feed that to them. Like, oh, here comes this move. Make sure you get this in. You know, little things like that. I think hold him back. I like the dynamic of him. I wish they would bring back the dynamic of the commentator, the color commentator, being strictly a heel.
Right.
Because I think he could pull that off better than anybody else.
I'm about to mention that.
Agreed.
Because, like you said, when he stands his favorites, if it's a heel, he really stands it, and like it's to the point where he, like, if you want to try annoying,
right,
you want to drop right.
He does what he's supposed to do, and I think the last time we saw somebody who was like that when it came to like when it comes to like hero commentator personas was King. When King was his best. When he was in the Attitude Era and he could just go. King was at his best. I think the dad jokes now, and I'm a dad, I get it, but I think that kind of falls on deaf ears at times because we're like, we don't really want to hear it, and that's not being disrespectful. I just think you have to do it every minute and 15 minutes. That's a little much.
It's a microcosm of society.
Right.
Half of the things Jerry Lawler said on commentary, like people were like, "Oh, I wish we could go back to that." They would cancel Jerry Lawler so fast. If you said half of the stuff that he said, so quick.
One word, puppies.
Right? Like you can't. Like we're in a day and age, and obviously, to me personally, you know, and this is like a sign of the times. The audience that they were going for and what they wanted to see from women wasn't athletic ability; it was TNA.
Right.
So of course he would enhance that even more, for lack of a better term. But you say some of the stuff about these women now. Sure, they're beautiful, but it's objectifying.
Right.
At the end of the day, it is objectifying.
And
you can't say
they'll have the entire brigade ready to like.
Yeah, but you know what? But I think that's what makes Corey so good too, because I don't want to say he objectifies the women, but I think the way that he approaches how he talks about the women is very.
It's not.
I don't want to say PG, but right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He
calls, Alexa Bliss is a goddess. Mandy Rose is, you know what I mean? Like there's, I think it's at a point where you hear, what woman wouldn't want to hear that you look like a goddess? You know what I mean? So I think, but once again, just his reactions, him in the ring when he's doing interviews and backstage. I think the way he speaks to the wrestlers, I think the way he tells the story alongside Cole, even when it was him, Cole, and Renee Young. His interactions with Renee Young was amazing, amazing.
But you could also credit that to Renee too, because
and
she needed somebody.
And that's what I was gonna get
like
to.
Cole is like the dad at the conference.
Right, exactly.
So both of them were just bouncing off of each other.
Right.
But yeah, my pick is Corey.
I also wanted to add to that as well. I don't think we give him enough credit in the sense that when something seriously has happened, so say when he has to sell a serious moment, even if he's a heel commentator, he will say, "Yo, that's messed up.
Yeah,
that's not how we do things here," or something like that.
I mean,
I feel that
that's we just watched Bailey beat the hell out of Sasha.
Yeah, he wasn't really this first size.
But like, I think when it is serious or when something happens, and it's that like feeling, that gas. I get that. He is very much what is happening, what is going on, why would you do that? I feel like he said it multiple times where he goes, I understand, you do anything to win, but this is too far. Or, something along those lines. Once again, I think he's very underrated, especially considering now and the commentators who are within wrestling, period. Excuse me. Let's just do a couple of honorable mentions real quick. I'll just start real fast. I have two. The one I was gonna go with was Mike Tenay. I think he is probably one of the best that people. I don't want to say don't remember. That's disrespectful. But he is one of the best that people don't realize is one of the best. He is very up there with he's very. I feel like he's very close when it comes to the way JR describes things, describes matches, tells stories. Mike is very, very close when it comes to that.
I don't think he's one of the best of all time. I don't think he's the best as a main commentator. I'll say that. I think his role was perfect in WCW, where he was the third guy,
Right.
and his job was to explain the moves,
Right.
and explain a little bit of the backstory of the wrestler.
Right.
I think when it was too much for him, and again, I think he's a great commentator. Don't get me wrong. I think he definitely is the best commentator TNA's ever had. Impact Wrestling, because they've fallen from grace. Yeah, but
we won't go into that.
But I think his best role was at WCW because. Okay, when we were watching the cruiserweights, we weren't necessarily all familiar with Mexican wrestling.
Right.
None of us knew what the hell we were seeing.
Right.
So it's like he's there to talk about the moves and talk about the backstory, like what the mask means and stuff like that. I don't think anybody does a better job of if you have a multi-man move, he fits in seamlessly with who he's with.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Because I think he their move.
There's just one in a generation.
Yeah.
Every generation, there's one commentator that can fit that mold with anyone.
I'll say this. Mike Tenay reminds me of Mauro Ranallo, but way down back.
Right. And my second one was Renee Young. I think what she has done for
everything commentary.
Yes, but especially when it comes to the women. I think the first woman full time raw commentator as a woman. I think
she made a job for it.
I think for the 8 years, because now she's no longer working for the WWE as we record this. But I think for the 8 years that she was in there from NXT up, there was literally nothing but magic when she touched that microphone.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff with Heyman is pure gold. The stuff with the Miz, pure gold. Kevin Owens, pure gold.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes platinum. I think Renee will always be remembered of not only being a trailblazer, but for being one of the best people to honestly have a headset.
Yep.
Those are mine too.
I have two as well. Again, this might come as a shock to some people. I'm going to go with Michael Cole for the first one.
No, go ahead.
Because I don't think he gets enough credit.
He doesn't. I'm not crazy, but he does what he does. He does it well.
He's good at making you dislike him.
He's
the best person to feed lines to.
He's one of the keys.
He's the best person to feed lines to.
I'll say that. I agree.
Yeah.
I think Michael Cole doesn't necessarily get enough credit for enhancing the face side of things.
Yeah.
When he was a heel, I thought it worked. I thought it dragged on way too goddamn long.
But you know what? It made it. I think the fact that it did drag on made it work. I mean, the coal mine. Come on.
Then it was easy to hate.
That was classic commentary. The coal mine.
He's like what I said. Jim Ross was. If he easily could have been a heel manager.
Yeah.
Because he was easy to hate.
Yep.
And I think that storyline in particular showed how versatile he was. He could do the heel stuff, but I don't think a play-by-play guy should ever be a heel because then he's not really talking about anything that he just enhances the heel side of the story. I don't think it should be up to the color commentary just to enhance the face side of the story. But he won my respect when he was next to Jerry Lawler when he had that heart attack.
Yep.
Right.
And he was able to keep his composure. He was able to report it to the fans who calmly and objectively and truthfully, and he was able to keep the broadcast going.
Yep.
That takes a special amount of composure to do that, and he won my respect as not only as a commentator but as a human being.
Yeah.
For him able to keep that, because that's a moment that could take you out of the show.
Yeah.
And he was able to keep the show going. At a respectable level. Of course, the guy having a heart attack live on camera is something that nobody's going to forget.
Yeah,
But he was able to keep the show going to a respectable pace. And I think that's something that should be celebrated about him. I don't think he gets nearly enough credit for that.
I don't think he. So I have my feelings about Michael.
Middle of the pack.
I think his more recent stuff I'm not really I haven't been crazy about, but his first because he's been in the game for a long time now too.
Yeah.
But you know, his stuff on SmackDown, I think, was him and him and Taz. I think was probably
His best.
one of the best.
I think it depends on who he's with.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it takes, to me, watching his commentary, I think if he has somebody that can bring out a little bit more of a
Right.
emotional style from him,
Right.
I think it works pretty well. I think that's
I think
what
that's
worked
good
well
about
with
him and
Taz.
Corey too. Because Corey can pull it out
JBL.
from.
JBL,
JBL
yeah, he was a great straight man.
I
Yeah.
think JBL was the perfect match, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Even
Yeah.
for them doing the YouTube skits and stuff like that,
Oh
you
my
see
God,
the energy.
amazing.
Even if
Amazing.
JBL is poking fun at him, like you can see him like he's ribbing him, but you
Right.
see Cole try to keep his composure. as
Yeah.
much as he can. Sometimes he broke, but
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
it's gonna
it's
happen.
always an energy level. It's
Right.
always an energy level.
Yeah, my second one outside of Bobby Heenan, because I think he's the greatest color commentator of all time, was Jesse Ventura. And I think Jesse Ventura played up the heel dynamic, but was very objective in his commentary. Like, you know, he was obviously a heel, and he cheered for the heels, and he advocated cheating, but he wasn't. I think what he did best was interject, like, that was a very good move by whoever the face is, and here's why that move works. I think with his insight as a professional wrestler, I think was like paramount to who he was with.
Right.
Especially somebody like Gorilla Monsoon, who again, not necessarily well versed on all of the moves, but very emotional, would use hyperbole and stuff like that. I think they were like a great pairing, like as far as like some
Shout out to
of
Will
those,
and Burrow.
some of
I'll tell you
those,
why later.
some of those golden era matches from like the 80s to like the
Yeah.
early
Early
90s and stuff. I don't think they're nearly as interesting without Gorilla Monsoon
Yeah.
and Jesse Ventura calling it.
I'll say my two. Well, one, I go with one is JBL.
Yeah.
Definitely I go with
Gotcha.
JBL.
First run.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen his great stuff.
JBL's first run as a color commentator is almost like
The stuff where he
That
was
was
on
straight off
SmackDown,
retirement.
right?
Yeah.
downright perfect. And what I love about JBL not even just his first run, what I like about JBL period is that even when the match is going on, JBL really is like because he was a wrestler that turned into a commentator, right? But when you listen to him like commentate, like giving the play-by-plays, it's like, wow, he's really like a historian. He really he goes not even in depth with the move that somebody does. He goes with that actual character's backstory, like what they actually did, what they did to come up. He actually like you could tell like he follows these superstars and like, okay, he goes and does his homework on all of them. And that's what I always said I like. That's what I always like about a commentator as well. Like you're able to do your homework on somebody, do your homework on them, know the moves, and you're able to give a joke. And I always loved when he always joked on. He was always joking on Michael Cole. I always loved
It was the
That's
best.
why I said the dynamic was great.
Even when was there a point in time did he do it with Byron Jackson too?
Yeah.
With who?
It was Byron.
Oh,
Cole,
yeah.
I think, and JBL.
And JBL.
I love it. I loved that was to me that was hilarious.
Shut up, Byron.
Like, that was great.
Wait, can I please say, because I was going to joke around with Byron, but I must say, Byron is not bad by any means. And if everybody honestly thinks that he's a bad commentator, they need to reevaluate their lookouts on commentators. Because for what he does, it's amazing.
He's a butt of the joke and he takes it well.
I was gonna
Right,
say
and even when he does is that your second?
it was my second. That's why I was going.
Even the way he reacts and bounces off of people giving him crap is like the best. And his reaction to like the New Day coming out, his reaction to the Street Profits coming out, like it is. And I'm not just saying it because they're black wrestlers, but it's amazing.
But at the same time, it's like with Byron, it's like you know he's excited. He's like the excited announcer.
I think that Byron, I don't mean to cut you off, I apologize. I think
Cool.
Byron's biggest
At
strength,
this point,
I think Byron's biggest strength is, I don't think any commentator in wrestling today plays his character as well as Byron.
Right.
For all intents and purposes, his character is that he's a nerd.
Yeah.
And people rip him for it.
Yeah.
shout out to all the nerds in the world.
He's a nerd.
People rip him for
He's
it.
been apologetic to black too.
That too, and
He does support a lot of the black talent, you know, and regardless of what like.
And we're not saying that anybody else doesn't.
No.
We're getting the-
It's just, you know, I'm not saying that he doesn't celebrate everybody, but I'm saying it's a different kind of energy. As you're saying with the New Day coming out, with the Street Profits coming out, shit, even the Hurt Business when they come out, you know,
But
it's an interesting thing, especially nowadays.
But it's just fucking funny to just sit there and fucking shit on Byron. It's just fucking great. It's great.
Like Nia Jackson should have called the police on him if he
Oh
says
my
something.
God.
It's great.
Like,
That's
it's crazy.
beautiful.
That
It's
is
fucking
hilarious.
beautiful.
And
Like,
I think, honestly, just the way I've watched things backstage, I honestly feel that Byron, I think Byron is who he is no matter what, whether it's backstage, whether it's off air, whether it's on air. I think Byron truly stays true to who he is.
I believe it.
And that's probably one of the best things about him also.
I believe it.
You know what I mean?
I believe what you see with Byron is what you see on this commentator. It's
See
probably
what you
what
get,
you see
yeah,
what you get. And it's like, okay, we don't really like you on here. We're gonna keep making fun of you, but we know you're probably a cool person out off camera. Like you're a dope person.
Another guy I gotta mention, two guys I gotta mention. I'll just gonna throw their names out really quick. I'm not gonna, but Joey Styles, I think has to be mentioned.
Joey Styles.
One of the best.
Joey Styles
There was a
definitely.
name that wasn't.
Joey Styles, I think, has
one
to
of
be
the
mentioned.
best.
He did both.
Yep.
ECW, he did play-by-play and color commentary at the same time. That's
And he
insanely fucking hard.
And he might be the best single man, the best person to do it by himself ever.
I have an objection to it.
Also, I think, for a contemporary pick, who I think is pretty damn good, Nigel McGuinness.
Yes,
for sure.
Nigel McGuinness is very, very, very good.
I wouldn't be surprised that wasn't one of your picks.
Being forced to be in the position that he is and still kill it, and I think goes to QS's point of JBL having the wrestler to
It
compensate the
helps.
transition. Right? It definitely helps.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you know the
It's
inside. You know why, if somebody has that motivation, you kind of know why he's doing that.
Right,
because I'm in the same position as a
Mhm.
wrestler. But also it adds to the feel of, you speak on the psychology of a match and you speak on this, you stress the moves.
Yeah.
Because you know when this move is applied, you
Right.
know that
You
is
know
so
what it
certain.
does.
It's always beautiful to see the wrestlers like be able to transition from
Mhm.
commentator and able to just do it.
Say his name. All right.
Yeah.
So,
We all
no. It's a beautiful thing, everybody. It's a beautiful thing, everybody, that, we say things that we don't have to, tell this to everybody, as it's going. Your point is exactly what I was about to transition to. My two picks are actually CM Punk and then
Yeah.
And then Ryan.
Yeah.
I'm going to say because you mentioned CM Punk. Here's why I bring up CM Punk. You said that Joey Styles may be the best to do both. CM Punk was at this by himself.
Yeah, he did.
He damn sure was.
And he did that for what? It was maybe a week or two, or maybe close to a month, because everybody had walked out. Triple H for 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks. But to have him on the desk there for 2 weeks, and he is not getting fed lines.
Yeah.
He's talking about as the matches are going. He's being him.
It was amazing.
He's being him. And then now you have Brian, who even he had to sell a match, even when he could not wrestle, he was on commentary. Even when he could not wrestle, he was on Talking Smack, and made Talking Smack one of the best things that they've ever done.
Shout out to
His
Miz.
commentary, Daniel Bryan during the Cruiserweight Classic.
Very
Yes.
much.
Him and Morrow made a really good
Made
pick.
it really good.
I think it was a beautiful pairing.
Really good pick.
And then
I would've loved
Brian
to
as
see
a
him on
person,
Raw.
Brian as a
NXT.
person, regardless to what, he'll make you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
When he was a heel, especially during his playing champion era, when he was
One
on
of
the
the
mic,
best
he was
runs.
berating you, but you can feel the anger in him when he's there.
But okay, just talking about that run real fast. I know we're not supposed to, but I think that specific run was him being him turned up so much, with so much anger, because that was him. But yeah, I mean those two. I don't know how you don't.
You can't.
Two other ones. You could say Macho Man. I mean, like I said, there's just
Macho wasn't bad.
Macho wasn't bad by any
Macho
means.
wasn't bad.
But like I said, I think there are just so many. It's like what we always say. There's just so many that we could touch on.
Maybe we'll do another episode.
We could. We damn sure could revisit it. Unexpected commentators. Never go more into it. So like always, we thank you. Let's get our socials out there, sir. Start off.
Well, you already know we don't have it on screen.
It's not on the bottom this time, yo.
Sorry. Sacrifices that to be made.
That's all. It's all good. That's cool. We're just moving on up. It's bigger and better. You can follow me on IG and also on Twitter at Forever Thiefin. Forever FOREVER Thiefin THIEFIN. Just remember to just follow those socials. Again, I I do a lot of hood jokes, a lot of.
You gotta show the mask, bro.
Oh yeah. Oh, show the mask.
Remember,
It's ghetto. It's ghetto.
this is
Find the right nearest mask site.
this is what I do. I promote. I always
Support black businesses.
I support all black businesses. I do a lot of politics. Man, I do social justice, and I drink a lot of beer. So it's just
The sponsor today.
Yep.
No sponsor today, sir. Oh, me. Okay, bro.
That's
You know me. Hi, everybody. I'm Striker Dragoon on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. I will be streaming. What's new? Avengers. I will be streaming Avengers. I'm trying to level up my Iron Man at the moment because I got the Tony Stark personality. But definitely follow us. I guess we will give the council information further towards the end. But
You can find me on Instagram at JadorSapio. I'm not spelling that out again. I'll wait to the next episode. But you also find me in the Council Commentary Facebook group speaking all things related to wrestling.
And as always, you follow me at Mr. Marvel87, Twitter and Instagram. I do have a Twitch, but I won't say that yet. Let me put some comment. What? Put some content out. Yeah. Also, once again, we have the Council of Commentary on Facebook. We have the Council on Twitter. All you have to do is search us. You find us very easy.
and Instagram as well.
And Instagram,
On
correct.
the road to 1K, please follow us.
Trying to do it, man. Trying to do it.
So be sure.
But once again, we are at the Four Corners of Commentary. Thank you for tuning in. Special occasion.
It's episode 10.
I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you can see it.
It's all good. Listen, we got a board.
We got a board.
We tried.
We can try to enhance it somehow. But
We're gonna figure it out. But
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
thank you guys.
And social distance, please be safe.
Yeah,
Shout out to all the
wear your mask.
yes, shout out to all
Wear your mask.
the first responders too.
Wear the mask.
And we're out.